Just Incredible, bringing you a Mega Man X2 speedrun tutorial on the final stage of the game. So once we get through the Shoryuken Rush, we have Sigma and this final stage to deal with. Now, as you notice, this stage is Magna Centipede from earlier in the game. Now, like I said before in the Magna Centipede tutorial, you're going to be playing the first half of this stage until you have to deal with the final fights of the game. Now, it's very important that you learn how to get through this without taking damage, because you need the Shoryuken for the remainder of the fights. Now, this is the any percent tutorial, so in any percent you don't collect Zero's parts, so you do have to fight Zero at the end of the game. But we'll get to that in a minute. But for right now, you're going to use the same movements just like you have before with Centipede. And that includes taking out the barrier attacker. The only difference here with this barrier attacker that you're supposed to snipe, if you fail to kill him, you have to do a full jump and then air dash over him to prevent taking damage. But other than that, you're using Burner the entire time, and you can Burner through those Bleckers. You can trip that alarm on purpose and still Burner through and be okay, but try not to trigger any of the other alarms. And then right here, you're going to climb that block that's supposed to move. And then when it drops, you're going to air dash. And then Burner. Now, normally, you're not in the... back in the other visit to the stage earlier in the game, you usually have to chain through that part. But you can Burner through everything this time around, because you're not going to be in any danger of using all your burners. But other than that, and jumping over the barrier attacker, there's no difference here. But setting up for this room is a little different now. What you want to do when you get into this room, and right here when X gets to the first chair in the background, you want to Shoryuken here, because the game, once this door comes down behind, the game is going to take control of X and supposed to move him back to this relative position for the Zero fight. However, if you get this Shoryuken off as the screen scrolls and locks right here, the game can't get X over to that position, because he is invincible to everything. And when I say everything, he is invincible to not only enemies that would even fire at him, but he's also invincible to game effects that would force his movement over to a particular spot. So if he's in the Shoryuken here, the game can't pull him over, so he's invincible. So that trigger is passed, and he ends up staying right where he is, and you want him to land basically in front of this chair. And this is a safety... this video shows the optimal run through this final gauntlet, but for instructional purposes, I'll be showing other different variances that could happen, but this is a relatively safe position. There's a chair behind him in the background, and X is covering it, so that's a good, safe position to be in. Now, when Sigma and Zero teleport in for this cutscene, notice the hands, the spacing between Zero's fist and X's fist. There's a good spacing there, so that means X has some room to move forward when this first battle with Zero begins. You can hold forward as the battle or as meter fills for the first Shoryuken input. Now, it takes 2 Shoryukens to kill Zero, because Zero's hitbox is too thin and it's too short. This hitbox for Zero is about the same as X's, so it's almost similar to the Crystal Snail YOLO strat for the refights. So you have to do 2 Shoryukens to kill him. X can get contact for at least 2 hits, so either Zero's health will be exactly half or it'll be quarter full. It just depends on how close you get to Zero when you Shoryuken the first time. But either way, or you can wait till his meter fills and you want to time an accurate Shoryuken. And you want to wait because Zero has a finicky AI here. Zero can block lemons. And what I mean by that, if you fire any shot other than the lemon at first, he'll block it. And then he'll stay in his block for a short maybe half second, and then he'll let his guard down. Also, as soon as Zero goes for the saber, he pulls the saber right here, he is vulnerable. He cannot block any more shots. So you want to attack him when he's attacking also in his animation, because he can't block it. So what happens here, since you're close to him, he'll go for a saber. Now, depending your position and relative to him, he'll do different attacks. So if you're up close to him or in the air, he'll go for a saber sweep and try to sweep you to one of the walls, like he's trying to do here. But obviously you Shoryuken, but you go through him. If you're mid-range to him, so if you're roughly close to him but not too close to do this, he'll do a green shot charge. And if you're at far distance away on the ground, he'll do his threefold threefold double charge and saber attack. And he'll also just move if you're in the air when you are or above him when he's about to do another move. So from this point, the first Shoryuken's going to go through him. And now you're still in the air when he gets ready to do another move, so he's going to do the same exact move to come back at you. But it looks like he's going to get you. But if you're accurate and you don't get scared, you can Shoryuken him before he tries to knock you into the wall. So there's both Shoryukens here. And I'll play this at full speed. So there's 1 and 2. Now, if you get an accidental lemon, don't panic. He'll block it, which means you just delay the kill, but you also it buys yourself some time to Shoryuken him. Just don't get too close to him, because if you bonk, you have to use a sub-tank. And once you enter this room, there's no more energy gathering for sub-tanks. You have to go through the end of the game, or you end up dying, or the run is over. This is where a lot of runs die, is here at the end of the game. I'll get to the other variations of the Zero fight in just a moment, but I'm going to go through the optimal video here to show what you're looking for when you do this final stage. So as soon as Zero dashes away after punching open the hole for the final Sigma fights, you get control, and just a simple dash jump into the gap will do. Now when he falls, you want X's heel to line up with you want X to fit in this gap here. It's kind of hard to explain, but you want his heel to line up with the line formed here, and you want his fist as he falls to line up with the inside part of the dark blue. Because as soon as the game takes control and of him again, he's going to move him to that exact same position. As you noticed, he flickered the other direction for just a frame. So I got him in the perfect position because the game wants to make sure that he's set up correctly for this fight. And then the Neo Sigma fight will begin. Now, this is the fight that really determines if your run is going to finish or not, because this guy is a jerk. He's the hardest boss to fight. Even though it's simple with the Shoryuken, he can do all kinds of different things. And that's basically what you want. As soon as the battle begins, you're going to go to the wall. And he should give chase, so he should kind of follow you. Now see, you jump out of his range with the claw. And then afterwards, you're going to jump. Now as you see there, I held my jump in midair over him. This is to try to get him to entice him to teleport. And if he teleports, he has to go to the nearest wall, which is this wall over here. Which means he sets himself up in the air, which the natural path of the Shoryuken carries you up into him like this. So you want to Shoryuken, and you want to be accurate with this Shoryuken. You can't afford to choke this Shoryuken input if he goes for the teleport. Now I'm going to hold my jump directly over him just for a minute, and then hope that he decides to teleport, because he could turn around and claw you if he wants and wreck you, and then Shoryu back to the left, and that's important for the final fight. Also, you want to be right in this particular area when you Shoryuken and kill Sigma. That way, after the explosion ends, X has to go back to this starting point. The game will take him to this spot to start the virus fight. So the closer you are to this particular spot, the less time he has to walk, which means that's less time you lose. Now for the Sigma fight. When you get control is based on the audio cue. So I'm going to turn the volume up on this. And once the music runs through for 1 unit of measure in music, so it's basically 8 seconds. You'll count to 8, and then once the first measure of the music ends, you get control. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, move. So it's basically you're counting to 8, and then after 8, you start your movement. So it's all about the audio cue to get your movement started. Now, as for the fight itself, you're going to dash under him. Now, let X's dash go completely the full length before you dash back. And then when you come back, Sigma's head's going to move up to the up and to the left. Well, also you're going to Shoryuken that way also. So you're going to have the Shoryuken follow his movement, and with one good Shoryuken you should kill him. And boom, he's dead. That's one method, and I'll talk about the other variations of these fights here in just a moment. So you really don't want to get in a rush and Shoryu. Just be very consistent and don't rush your inputs, because that's where a lot of runs can fail, is where people rush their inputs. They try to finish the game fast, but they do it too fast and they don't get their inputs correct. And that's the one hitter. So now for alternative fights. So I'm going to open backup or other different types of fights for the Zero fight. And now in this example, I do the Shoryuken really good. Like, you could be between the chairs or almost on this chair, and when he Shoryukens, he ends up a little bit further. As you see, you can see the other chair that he was covering before in the opening video, but now he's a little bit more forward. And now when Zero comes in, the fists are almost overlapping each other. This is the Brofist. This is about as close as you should dare to get to Zero, because you can still get a buffered input here just by a little bit. And what will happen is it just finishes the fight a little bit faster, but it's not much to really matter, in my opinion. It's just for swag, basically, because you're real close. And also, the Shoryuken is a little closer, so it got 2 hits on him. But following the Shoryuken damage formula, it deals 16 for the first hit and 8 for each hit afterwards. But it only hit him for 2 frames, and not 3. And just like before, and you have a little bit more room to time your second Shoryuken, because when you did the first one, or when you did the second Shoryuken on the other video, he was a little closer. But you have a little bit more space, but not much. So this is the Brofist 2 Shoryuken. It's not that much different, but the Brofist is just for swag. Now for the Bro Chin, I call this the Bro Chin. Now you're a little closer than where you should be, and when Zero comes in, Zero's fist is on X's chin. So you're a little too close to try a buffered forward Shoryuken input. You'll bonk into him. So instead of going forward, you can hold actually the other direction and do a semicircle input. So you hold back, down, forward, and then hold, and then press shot, and then it's still the same input. Just because X is not holding directly right every time doesn't mean that it counts. So holding the other direction is still considered forward. So it's basically compared to a Chun-Li's fireball move in some of the Street Fighter games, where it's a semicircle input instead of a forward, down, down, forward motion. But the same, but you see there's a shot there, and I'll cover that later. That shot delay, it prevented him from firing on X, but it also bought you a little time to get your Shoryuken correct. So 1 and then 2. But the fight is still handled the same way, it's just the setup influences how you do the first Shoryuken. That's the only difference here. Now for okay, let's say you missed the Shoryuken coming into this room and you end up forced back over here. As the fight starts, just do a Shoryuken right from the get-go. And then after, you'll Shoryuken over all 3 of Zero's shots, and then he's open so that you can just walk up to him and he'll go for the saber just like before. And then you just saber him in the face and then back again. It's about a 1.5 seconds slower, but it's your only option if you miss the Shoryuken entry into this room. So, Shoryuken, Shoryuken, Shoryuken. Boom. He's done. And here's the last Zero shot. This is what I call the shot block Shoryuken setup. I fire a lemon into him to make him block and Shoryuken, and then as he comes back to me for the second Shoryuken, I shoot another shot to make him block, and I just walk up to him and Shoryuken. So let me rewind that. Here we go. So you shot, Shoryuken, shot, Shoryuken. Obviously that's slower, but it's much, much safer if you're having trouble with your inputs. And if you still need to shoot at him to keep him in the block animation, shoot as many times as you think you need to get this Shoryuken off. Just try not to take too long, because you want to save all your sub-tanks, if you have any, for the Sigma fights. So that's basically it for the Zero alternatives. So coming up now is the Sigma teleport. So Sigma teleports and you miss the Shoryuken, start from the left side of the screen and just walk. And at some point, Sigma will come down and teleport. And once you know that he's teleporting, just do a semicircle inputted Shoryuken. So you're going to be holding forward still. And then you just hold forward, down, down, forward. And sometimes the other forward input would be necessary. But after this down forward, you do shot. And then you will Shoryuken him, because he is vulnerable once he lands. Now, the time that it takes for Sigma to come down after he teleports away will vary. It's not the same. So you just have to wait and hope that he comes down quick. The sooner the better, because if you Shoryuken him sooner, you'll end up more on the left side of the room, which is the setup for the final fight. Also, I stood there on the wall to try him to teleport, which is also a good way to handle the fight in the first place if you're not comfortable with just dash jumping over him and just leaving Sigma's RNG up to chance. So there's that method. What's next here? Okay, probably the worst pattern of all, the pink balls. If he does pink balls right off the bat, I don't foresee any viable way to get around these shots except intentionally take a damage boost and then get up to Sigma use a sub-tank if you have one. Now, it's very important. Those pink balls deal 3 units of damage, and you need to have that many units in a sub-tank for this to work. Or a full sub-tank. Although a full sub-tank will take longer to deplete before you can get control to get back to the game. But just deplete the sub-tank, and then while you're still in invincibility frames, let him have it. But make sure you get close enough, because you can clip Sigma and not kill him completely, and you're just SOL. And then you're screwed. That's how a lot of my runs end. I'd go for this. He does pink balls, and I try to just Shoryuken through him, and I don't get him, and the run's over. It sucks. This, if you get this, consider yourself unlucky. There's a way to try to lead the pink balls into the air, and you dash under him, and then try to Shoryuken him, because he has no hit. He is vulnerable. He does have a hitbox when he's just standing still. And that's another thing. If he does the slashing claw move, he does not have a hitbox when he's in that pose. I don't understand why they removed his hitbox. But you could try to Shoryuken him when he claws you, and you will not kill him. You'll go your Shoryuken goes right through him. It's stupid. It's probably the dumbest thing in the game, other than him doing paintballs outright. But that's the only foreseeable solution I can explain to get through paintballs. Just if you have a sub-tank, and if he does that, just take a hit, use the sub-tank, and hope you can kill him with the Shoryuken while you're invincible. And then hope you get Virus Sigma afterwards. But after that, we're talking about Virus Sigma anyway, which isn't that much different. So, the method I killed Sigma before was the dash under and just do the one-hitter, the one Shoryuken. A lot of runners do that, but there's an alternative on what's called the Ajarmar special. So instead of moving under him or dashing under him, you just stand still, and then right there, as Sigma's head starts to look to the left, and right before the front part of his face crosses this line connecting these 2 dots, you start your semicircle imp to the left from standing position, and then if you get it correctly, you'll kill him that way, and he's dead. It's a 3-frame window. In reality, it's a 5-frame window, but in between each of the 3 good frames, there's a 1 frame that it doesn't work. You won't one-shot him completely. But a couple of runners I know use the Ajarmar special. So here it is at full speed. And you don't have to move when the music does the full 8 count measure that I explained earlier. So you just do a left Shoryu and hope you get it. There's also a frame perfect Shoryu if you hold against the wall. Like if you go right against the wall and you wait for the head to move up, there's 1 frame that you can do it. If you do the Shoryuken on that 1 frame, it'll still one-hit him and kill him. But I don't see anyone going for that. But I think I do show a backup strat for this, or a safer strat for Virus, regardless. So after the Ajarmar special, we have the 2 Virus Shoryuken. So if you miss the first Shoryuken, oh yeah, I go for the frame perfect in this example, don't get it, but still, you can always, since you chase him down because he goes to the other side of the room with his attack pad, you should be able to chase him down and Shoryuken before he teleports away. So this is probably a safer method if you don't have any tanks left and you don't want to get hit. So this is a good safe alternative. And there's one final video. If you get a Shoryuken and you try to Shoryuken the backup and you miss, and he teleports away, you just swap to strike chain, let him entrap you, and just fire chains until he dies. And that's it. So there's that Shoryuken. You get to the second Shoryuken a little late, so you don't do it, but you go right to chain. It's likely when you get him into the dark red phase, he will always teleport after he goes across the screen with his little beam there. There's a lighter red phase, but it's really hard to tell if he's in the light red phase. So you usually just have to wait for him to do a move just to see what phase he's in. But that's a very simple end to the fight. And that's basically the end of the game.